you come to want to leave the company. But luckily the guy that owns the pickle is a wonderful character, a great chap. So that wouldn't apply to him.
Yeah.
Sure, you'd breathe a sigh of relief to know that. But no, that sounds really interesting. So and sorry to hear about your loss, and but it's given you the strength and courage, and it's given you a great story to be able to help other people. So that's really inspirational.
Yeah, thank you.
So if we asked 10 of your old schoolmates, then how would they describe you back in school?
I was very outgoing. I was very well liked. I was definitely an overachiever, which contributed to my imposter syndrome as an adult. Um, Charismatic. I wasn't really a risk taker. I wasn't going to be the person that was going to do anything wild or crazy, or suggest that we go, jump off a bridge or anything. So I think they would probably say that I was pretty disciplined, pretty reserved, very outgoing.
So were you the guy that they came to for advice? If they had problems, were you like the sensible one in school that they would get the rational, logical sort of way of doing things from?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. Yeah, I was the person that people kind of turned to for guidance, especially since I had to grow up pretty quickly. I have a twin sister and a younger sister and a younger brother. And so I was always a little bit kind of wise beyond my years, so to speak. And so I think that people within my friend group and classmates and things sort of looked up to me in that way.
Oh, that's really good. That's really nice to know. So, if you're writing a script then for a movie about your life, describe the opening scene. So, how would it start?
Um, I think it would probably start out feeling lost because you know your your formative years are before 12 years old, which is when I lost my father.
Mhm.
But 12 years old is still very young. Um, and so I think it would start out feeling the beginning of the script would probably start out with feeling a little bit lost, and kind of trying to find your way, and probably a bit shy even. Um, that's kind of what my children's book was about, actually. It's called The Shy Sheep, and it's about a little sheep that wants to make friends, is too shy to do so, and comes across a fox, and they form a bond. So I'm sort of a multi-genre author, and so I think that the beginning script would start out with a young individual who was a bit lost, a little bit shy, and wondering sort of where life was going to lead without this parental figure any longer.
Mm, no, of course. No, it sounds that would make it a really good film, to be honest. Yeah, definitely. So, what was the last time that you did something that scared you?
That scared me. You know what? I don't really get scared very often. So, I think if there was something that I did that the last thing I did that probably pushed me out of my comfort zone, which I guess could be considered scary, was writing the book.
Mm,
Writing the very first book. I had been a part of another podcast, and that was a similar question. And we were talking about the topic of imposter syndrome. And I said, "Oh, you want to talk about imposter syndrome monsters? Try writing a book." And they really rear their ugly head.
mm.
And so I think that was probably the thing that's been most intimidating and I guess sort of scary to me recently was writing my first book.
Did you have the writer's block? So you just stare at the page and think, where do I start? How do I position this?
Uh, I was very, very blessed in the fact that I did not really have a time where I felt writer's block because imposter syndrome was so familiar to me,
Mm.
that it was so very easy to talk about and also to put into written form.
That's good. Yeah, that's really interesting. When you wrote the book, were you actually dictating and speaking for it to sort of start you off, or was it just literally just started to write it as you were thinking about things? Because some people speak better and they just end up putting it onto paper that way to get a baseline.
I think it probably would have been easier, certainly, to have dictated it.
Mm,
but it was just I sat down with the computer and I started typing and just started, putting together the sort of the dialogue for the book. And I had an outline. I knew right away the topics that I wanted the book to consist of. And so having that general outline really helped a lot.
no, I bet. That's great. So when it comes to advice, what do people seek you out for?
Well, really, honestly, all sorts of advice, be it professional, be it personal. But I find a lot of times people will really rely on me when they're going through a difficult time and just struggles in general in life, be it with uh, you know, profession, be it in a personal relationship. I'm sort of the person that people will turn to because they know that I'm very level-headed. I Having worked in the legal field for so many years, as the administrator of a law firm and had started out, working as a paralegal and things like that, it was always so important to look at everything from every aspect. And so, as a leader, I was extremely diplomatic and extremely fair. And, I like to think everything through. I like to hear all sides before coming to a conclusion. So I think a lot of times people will turn to me because they know that they're going to get an honest, unbiased answer.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's not always what they wanna hear, but, you know, that's the price you pay for asking, so
Yeah, the truth hurts sometimes, isn't
yeah,
it? No, it's better to be straight down the line with things like that, definitely.
sure.
Okay, so what was the one weakness that you're working on to improve right now? So what's something that you consider a weakness to be?
Eh, Although I have overcome imposter syndrome, I would say 95%, there is still I would say I do still struggle with that. I have to take my own advice often. Um, Especially when it comes to doing something new and when it comes to talking about yourself. And
Mm,
with both books, um, I've found myself having to do that now more often. I'm not shy. I've been on the news before. I have been in front of a camera for many years, but to talk about yourself or your
mm,
achievements, that's one of the things that people who struggle with imposter syndrome have a really difficult time doing because with imposter syndrome, we tend to contribute our successes to external sources. I was just in the right place at the right time, just luck, just knew the right person.
mm.
And so it's really difficult for me, even having written the book, when people will say, "Oh my gosh, you've written a book that seems to have really 2 books now that are doing really well." And I have a hard time still taking credit for that.
You don't take compliments well then, so if somebody pays you a compliment, you sort of always come up with maybe, what, an excuse or something, or do you struggle with compliments?
I do.
Mm.
It's when someone says I anything, no matter what it is, like, "Oh, I like your shoes," or whatever. It's just so hard to think, "Well, that's genuine,"
Mm,
and so it's difficult. Yeah, I have a difficult time. I appreciate them, but they feel a bit foreign because
mm,
anytime someone compliments I think sometimes anytime people compliment us, people see us differently than we see ourselves, and so sometimes I think, "Well, it's not that great, writing a book or writing 2 books really isn't that big of a success, even
mm.
though it is."
Yeah, it is, very much so. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, that's really interesting. So when was the last time you had to leave something behind? And, what was it and why?
To leave something behind. Wow, I honestly cannot think of something that
Did you
I've
ever
had to
have to
leave.
move somewhere because you just thought, "I just fancied a change," or you just thought, "You know what? This isn't for me anymore," and there was a reason why you left it?
Well, so leaving the legal field was one of those things, and that's been a bit difficult because I'm not someone by nature who likes change. So I always say I'm someone who craves change, but I don't. I want I love adventure, and I love the idea of the newness of something, but I also don't like it at all. I'm very much a creature of habit, and so
Mm.
making that decision to leave the legal field, um, and then write the book and think about what my next sort of chapter looks like, was not an easy decision.
No, I bet. I definitely, yeah, I can imagine it must be a massive transition from an industry like that to being an entrepreneur as such.
Yeah.
So definitely. So 20-year-old self is watching this show now. So what would you advise them?
I would say that everything is going to be okay. Um, it's kind of funny because I think I a bit have lived my life backwards. Um, as I said, I felt like I kind of had to grow up very quickly, after the loss of my father. And so I was very mature at a young age, um, very confident in my 20s. I was actually running a law firm in my 20s and, battling with high, uh, very high level insurance companies and things like that. And I had a lot of fortitude. And as I've gotten older, I sort of have found that the confidence that one would have as they get older due to life experiences, things like that, I've sort of started lacking.
Really?
So, yeah, and so I feel like I would probably tell my 20-year-old self that, it's going to be okay. You're going to make it. Don't panic.
Mm,
Um, and take every experience in life as a learning experience.
that's
Whether
okay.
it's good or bad,
Exactly.
there
Yes,
there's a lesson there.
there is. Yeah, life's lessons definitely. So finally, the three words that you want written on your epitaph. So what would you want someone to your eulogy or however you want to say it? It's kind of what would be the three words to describe you?
Uh, 3 words to describe me. I'm reliable, honest, trustworthy. I think
That's
those are
good.
the 3 things that come to my mind when I think of about myself.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Well, Zane, it's been an absolute pleasure. And be sure
Yeah.
to check out Zane's website as well. And yeah, it's been wonderful, Zane. It's been really interesting, inspiring. Listen to you give your thoughts on my questioning. So, if you do want to become a thought leader for any of our listeners as well, check us out at podcastguesting.pro. And Zane, it's been a pleasure. And you
It's
look after yourself and have a great day.
Thank you. You do the same. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much for your
Uh-huh.
time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Mm.